currency.
The New World Order.
Those are the roots of trouble.
I imagine that right now you're feeling a bit like Alice, tumbling down the rabbit hole. Let me tell you why you're here. You're here because you know something. What you know you can't explain, but you feel it. You felt it your entire life. That there's something wrong with the world. You don't know what it is, but it's there, like a splinter in your mind, driving you mad. It is this feeling that has brought you to me. This is your last chance. After this, there is no turning back. You take the blue pill, the story ends. You wake up in your bed and believe whatever you want to believe. You take the red pill, you stay in Wonderland, and I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes. All I'm offering is the truth, nothing more.
For we are opposed around the world by a monolithic and ruthless conspiracy that relies primarily on covert means for expanding its sphere of influence, on infiltration instead of invasion, on subversion instead of elections, on intimidation instead of free choice, on guerrillas by night instead of armies by day. It is a system which has conscripted vast human and material resources into the building of a tightly knit, highly efficient machine that combines military, diplomatic, intelligence, economic, scientific, and political operations. Its preparations are concealed, not published. Its mistakes are buried, not headlined. Its dissenters are silenced, not praised. No expenditure is questioned, no rumor is printed, no secret is revealed. But I am asking your help in the tremendous task of informing and alerting the American people.
And now, welcome to another episode of Down the Rabbit Hole. Here's your host from federaljack.com. It's Popeye.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to tonight's live broadcast. Yes, I am sorry to say that yesterday I did play a rebroad, October 14th, 2012. My first rebroad in about a year and a half of broadcasting. I just did not have time to do two pre-recorded shows. I took a lot of time putting together a bunch of different stuff, and I just didn't have time to do anything because I am moving the Federal Jack bunker a few hundred miles away from, more than a few hundred miles away from my current position to a much better position for me in the grand scheme of things. So I had to take a few days off and go drive around and find a place to live. So I could not be live yesterday. So yes, you heard my rebroad of my interview with Charlotte Thompson Iserby. If I was going to run a rebroad, that would be one of the things to rebroad because just a very powerful interview. And you could never hear Charlotte too many times on the air. I hope you all enjoyed Friday's broadcast. I was able to fix the audio up for you, as you heard when I was playing it. And the Conspiracy of Silence is something that I've been wanting to play in full in its entirety for a long time. And Jimmy lets me, from time to time, as you all know, Jimmy lets me go commercial free sometimes if it's something that requires more time than I would be allotted if we went with the commercial breaks. And something as important as the Franklin cover-up, I feel deserves, commercial free in its entirety. And Jimmy felt the same way. So I want to give a big shout out and a big thank you to Jimmy X for letting me do that on Friday and go commercial free for the first and second hour and play the drone information as well. And as you all heard, I mean, like I told you, Terminator's coming to get us now. Unfreaking believable. We live in the sci-fi movies that I grew up watching and going, that crap will never happen because this kind of stuff only happens in Hollywood. And, the people in the real world, they're too smart to let this stuff happen. Apparently, I was wrong. So, yes, the people are stupid enough to want to wage drone warfare, want to give drones AI. I mean, that was probably the biggest thing that blew my mind. The first time I ever saw that documentary, just totally blew my mind. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, go check it out. You can see, I think you can buy it. I don't know if it's on Netflix, but I think you can purchase it from the filmmakers. It's called Remote Control War. It's a Canadian company, film company, whatever, production company that put it together with the CBC. And it was not aired here in the United States at all. I've uploaded it to YouTube on multiple occasions, and it's been ripped. So just go Google it. I'm sure you'll find their website or whatever, and I think you can purchase a copy of it. But I suggest anybody that has the ability to do so, go do it. Because as you heard, I mean, the one guy that was talking, and I should have paused it and interrupted it and told you who he was, but I didn't. I just didn't want to interrupt it and screw up the flow of information, because sometimes I have a tendency to interrupt clips, which you all know. And I was not trying to do that. I was actually trying to let you hear the audio. But there was one of the guys talking was an Air Force general, the one that was talking about the weakest link in the chain. And then he was like, well, of course, there'll always be a human in the chain. Yeah, okay. And then later on, he admitted that they're trying to go to full AI and all this other stuff. And he was talking about swarm technology. When they got into the swarm technology, that guy that was speaking was an Air Force general. So they're going to have 50,000 of these bugs that they're going to drop out of the back of the C-1, like I said, C-130 Hercules, fly over city. Right? Oh, we're just spraying for mosquitoes. They drop all this crap out, and you have 50,000, 100,000 of these things flying around, these little robots. And, you know, they'll act in groups like a swarm of bugs, like a swarm of pissed-off killer bees. As I said Friday, can you imagine if what a swarm of pissed-off killer bees looks like attacking a human or a dog? Think about what would happen if these things were mechanical. And see, at least a biological insect you can swat, and it dies from you crushing it with your hand if you smash it. What happens when they're little robots made out of titanium or something even harder and more, something that is a lot tougher than just a regular bug? I mean, bug shells are pretty tough. Bugs are pretty tough for their size, but compared to, when it's something thousands times your size like a human being, normally it gets squashed. You have a chance. I mean, not many people survive when they get attacked by killer bees per se, but at least they can squish some of them, What are you going to do when it's a robot and squishing it doesn't do anything? What are you going to do when it's got some little robot stinger filled with poison or whatever else, and it doesn't break off? It just keeps stinging you. Or how about a little knife or whatever? I would assume they would probably put stingers on them and just give poison, because then they could just come over and, it would look like a bug landing on you. You could be think about assassinations with these things. You're sitting there, you're a head of state, right? Whatever government wants to assassinate you. You're sitting there, all of a sudden this little thing comes over, zzz, and before the guy can even smack it, it injects poison into him. And by the time his hand hits his arm, he's dead. He's having a heart attack. The Russians did that kind of stuff with needles and poison sprays and everything that could be blown out of a cigarette. So what's to say that if they had the ability to remotely control some insect with a little stinger on it, that they wouldn't land it on your neck, jab you in the neck? Oh, Popeye, you're being a fearmonger. No, I'm not being a fearmonger. I'm stating the truth. They were talking about doing things like this. I want you to get the video if you can, or at least try to find it and watch it. If you can find it online, because as they're talking, the audio does, gives you a ton of information, but the video does more justice to it, because when you watch it, you'll see how they, their idea of what they want to do. Like in one case, it's these tiny little flying drone robots. They look like a little bit smaller version than the quad rotor ones with that they have out there. You can control with an iPad. The frame is made of styrofoam, and it's got 4 little rotators on in each corner. Well, they look like a smaller version of that, but it's got lasers on it. And that's when you hear the woman talking about, well, then they would give these things AI, and they would fly in, and they would find somebody and kill them, whoever it was in that room. And you see a visual where these things are flying into a room, and the room's filled with gunmen, and these guys are all trying to pivot around and shoot these things with machine guns, and all the drones just come in and swarm them and kill all of them. You don't think that they want to do that? Think about it. Armed resistance, how many guns do you have? Doesn't matter if they sick 50,000 of these little insect drones on you, right? Or the bigger rotor ones, rotor-powered ones flying around, little quad rotors. Do you think it matters? Do you think it matters? I do. I think this kind of stuff is what keeps me up at night. You want to know the truth? I'll tell you the truth. There's very few things that keep me, when I try to go to sleep, my brain, I can, after years of doing this, I can turn my brain off most of the time. Some days I have bad couple days. But this is one thing that bothers me. Because this is like your worst nightmare come true. I know a lot of you out there have played video games like I have. How many times when we were in the 90s when we were kids, or in the 80s for me, but even into the 90s, they still have it now, but like when I was a kid, the biggest pain in the butt in a video game like Metal Gear Solid was always these drones that they had out of nowhere. They had these little drones flying around with a camera and a machine gun on it, and it would see you and the alarm would go off and it would start shooting at you. Game they had called BioShock, same thing. Drones flying around, little helicopter-powered drones with a camera on it, and it would see you and it would start to alert all the other ones, and they would come over and they would just indiscriminately start shooting at you. And it was always the hardest thing to kill in a video game, right? What do you think is going to be the hardest thing to kill on the battlefield once it's really out there? And when I say battlefield, I mean your front lawn. Because remember, the U.S. government has said that the United States is now a battlefield. Don't forget that. Hence, 30,000 drones flying over you. But if you think a Predator drone is what you should be worried about, no. You should be worried about the bird across the street. Or the snake that's going through your grass. I'm telling you, when you watch the video from this documentary, you will see and you've seen it, the live videos on YouTube that DARPA's working with. They got little gecko robots that climb walls. They have spiders. Has anybody ever, I'm sure this has gotten brought up before, but has anybody ever seen Minority Report? I know a lot of other people do touch on Minority Report, but here's something that everybody seems to forget about Minority Report. They always say, well, they're having all this, they're talking about pre-crime, and they're talking about all these robots and these advertisements that scan your eyes, which is true. But there's one big glaring thing that they seem to forget about that movie. And I have to get off on this for a second. I have to get off on this little tangent, this little side issue. There's one thing nobody ever talks about, and it's the fact that in the end of the movie, the pre-crime didn't work. They admitted it was all BS, and that it was more done for control and money than anything else. It didn't work. So what did they do? They shut the division of pre-crime down. But until that part of the movie, they were arresting people. And what were they doing? They were putting those little halo things on them. So it would numb their brain out, whatever the hell it would do, interfere with your neural transmissions. All the technology from that movie is becoming a reality. And the robots that they deployed to go find, what's his name? I think it was John Anderson or whatever the hell his name was, or Anderton. That was his name. It wasn't Anderson. It was Anderton. And when he was laying in, Tom Cruise is laying in the bathtub, and he had just he just had an eye transplant or whatever. They found him. They climbed up. They scanned his eyes. It wasn't him, and they moved on. Or at least according to their database, it wasn't him. That kind of stuff is becoming a reality. TSA's talked about taser bracelets, putting that crap on you. We can incapacitate a human being as he walks through the airport if he gets out of line. What's out of line? When you say, no, I will not comply and let you touch my wife's breasts or fondle my 14-year-old daughter's vagina. You sick bastards. Next thing you know, you're on the ground drooling and pissing on yourself because they've turned on your electric collar. And then while they're zapping you with the electric collar, they fondle your wife and your daughter in front of you just to give you a good FU because, hey, we're TSA. And that's the kind of crap that they do. Oh, Popeye, you're going off. No, I'm not. TSA's a bunch of scumbags. And if I remember correctly, Ryan said on his show earlier it was their 10-year birthday. FU TSA. Unhappy 10th birthday, you pedophilic scumbags. love, Popeye, care of Down the Rabbit Hole. If you feel like emailing me, the full word contact, DTRH@yahoo.com. Scumbags. Ugh, happy birthday to the TSA. F-U TSA. And give me shock bracelets. And by the way, this is not new. This came out, I think it was 3 or 4 years ago now. 3 or 4 years ago that they were talking about this. And everybody's like, oh, kooky conspiracy theorists, they're never gonna do it. Really? Now they're doing it. Now they're openly talking about doing it. Like, hey, it's a good thing. Tear it up. It's because there's terrorists out there, and I can't get to my plane if there's terrorists. This is America. You want to put a dog collar on me? This is America. I'm happy. I live in freedom in America. Unbelievable. While we're on that subject of the police state, since we're here, I had some clips I was actually going to play later, but I want to play this really quick now because I've been gone and busy for the past, last week I was slammed, I had guests and everything, and Wednesday, by the way, Stephanie Sledge is coming back for part 2 of the Jared Lee Loughner investigation. If you thought what she talked about last Wednesday was interesting, tune in this coming Wednesday because we're getting into more. When we got off air, there was just so much more info. I said, well, let's do part 2. And she's willing to grace us with another 2 hours. So tune in this Wednesday for part 2 with my interview with Stephanie Sledge on the Jared Lee Loughner investigation. But anyway, I wanted to talk about this last week, and I didn't get a chance to. So I want to play this audio for you really quick. Here's just an example of how the trigger-happy police, Border Patrol, government agents, but we'll say trigger-happy policing agents. Just another example of how they are trigger happy. They shot and killed, I know this is a little bit older news, but they shot and killed a Border Patrol agent a few weeks ago. Yes, cops shot and killed a Border Patrol agent. Yes, friendly fire here inside the United States. Yes. Well, this happens all the time. Yeah, on a battlefield maybe. Still think people that bitch about the police getting a little too trigger happy or just, they're just jerk off conspiracy theorists that don't like cops. They hate all cops. Actually, I have a lot of friends that are cops. I have respect for good officers. I have good respect for officers that go out there and walk a beat, know the people in the community, aren't out there just trying to make money, trying to be a revenue generator. I have respect for those cops that solve murders and crimes. Yeah, I have a lot of respect for the guys that do that. I have no respect for the guys that do things like throw a flashbang grenade into a house and give a little 12 or 14-year-old girl second-degree burns. Yeah, that happened. Because swatting is a new prank, by the way, where these jerk-off kids that have nothing better to do nowadays. When I was a kid, we used to prank call people and, do the jerky boys stuff and hang up on them, at the most. Or, you have Prince Albert in a can. Oh, let him out. I know. Corny old crap, right? And now it's new. Now they call 911 and they say, I'm holding someone hostage, and then the person's house gets raided by a SWAT team. It's a funny joke. Now, here's the thing. You have the news media bitching about this, right? And you have the news media saying, oh, these kids are the problem, blah, 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 blah. You know what? Yeah, the little bastard making the prank phone call, he needs his ass beat, without a doubt. But you know what? You know what else is the problem? I'll tell you what else is the problem. The SWAT team just going in, balls to the wall, kicking doors in and shooting everybody and throwing flashbang grenades in. In this case, they raided a house. They threw the flashbang in. It was the wrong goddamn house. They put a little girl in the hospital with first and second degree burns because they threw a flashbang in her window and it landed next to her. But hey, that's okay because they're law enforcement. And it's for the better good, Popeye. You shouldn't get mad. They could save your life one day. No, I get mad when a 14-year-old girl or 12 or whatever the hell she is, little girl, gets hit with a flashbang grenade. I get pissed when anybody gets hurt for no reason at all because the trigger-happy cops. I'm getting tired of it. Here's just another example of it.
Welcome back to the second half of Out Front. We start the second half of our show with stories we care about, where we focus on our own reporting from the front lines. We have breaking news. 2 law enforcement officials tell CNN the death of a Border Patrol agent this week was caused by friendly fire. The FBI says in a statement, there are strong preliminary indications that the death of United States Border Patrol agent Nicholas Ivey and the injury to a second agent was the result of an accidental shooting involved only the agents. The injured agent was released from the hospital on Wednesday.
I mean, how about we change our tactics up a little bit, boys? How about we stop getting so gun happy? Is that a possibility? No, it's a dangerous world out there, Popeye, and you don't know. These guys are doing a job that people want to shoot them and kill them. Did you ever wonder if maybe it's the policies that they're enforcing that people don't like, not the individual? Oh, but no, that's not. Couldn't be that, right? That's like saying that they hate us in Afghanistan and don't want us over there because we've done bad things and we've bombed their country and done things. I mean, we're over there spreading democracy. What are you talking? Every time we launch a cruise missile, Popeye, freedom comes out the end of it. What are you talking about? I can't handle this. I have an Army Strong bumper sticker on my truck. I love America. I mean, that's the kind of mentality we have to deal with. That's not the reality of the situation. It's time to, pull our heads from our collective butts. People don't like police nowadays for very simple reasons. They're revenue generators. They beat the crap out of old people, young people, middle-aged people, anyone. They pepper spray people. They taser people. And nothing happens to them. See, that's the problem. If one of these officers was made an example of, things would be much different, wouldn't they? If the courts actually held somebody accountable, if the courts actually sent one of these officers to jail, which sometimes happens, but a lot of times it starts with their police chief, their captain, their police union rep. And there's never, he did the crime. So, no, it's always covering it up and damn the victim. It's the victim's fault. If that victim wasn't there, like the cop that used his badge to get into a bar and then sexually assaulted a woman at the bar and the judge told the woman it was her fault for being there. Yeah, it's your fault. If you're the victim, it's your damn fault. Unacceptable. Time to get angry about it and then get proactive. We are back. As you can tell, I'm all fired up today, ladies and gentlemen. No, I'm not railing against police in general. As I said, I have the utmost respect for officers like detectives that go out and actually do jobs like, solve crime like they should instead of wasting their time doing things like giving people tickets or other things. But when I see things like the little girl getting burned by a flashbang grenade. And of course they're going to blame, it's the swatting prank, Popeye. It's the kid. No, it's not the kid. I mean, yeah, it is the kid, but you have to look at the problem from 5 steps further back to see to see it in its entirety. You need to take a step back, even if it's 10 steps. You're not seeing the full picture. You're seeing a part, a large part, but you're not seeing the full part. The kid and other people like him are able to pull these swatting pranks because they're playing off of the reactions of the police. One would think that the police officers and the SWAT teams or whoever's in charge, the chiefs, whatever, they would look at this and say, well, obviously they discovered a weakness of ours. We act like a bunch of a-holes and just go raid anything based on random phone calls without actually checking to see if it's the truth. We just raid homes. We just go do things because we react. We're a quick reaction force. Well, what are we, at war? Yes, we're at war with scum, Popeye. I actually got an email or it wasn't an email. Let me rephrase that. It was a comment. I read it because I get when comments get left on Federal Jack, it gets emailed to me. But it was a comment left on an article about the militarization of the police departments across the country just about a year ago. I've talked about this before. And it was from the SWAT team captain. If I remember correctly, he was out in California somewhere. And I could be wrong about the state, but that's not really important. He left a comment on, it was a repost. I reposted an article of that somebody else wrote with the guy's permission, and I put it up in full. And the cop had copy and pasted the same response in his article on Federal Jack and on his original website. So he was going back and forth between the two, commenting to the cop as well as I was on Federal Jack. And the cop basically said to me that we were them, meaning the police officers, quote, "We are in a war with scum in this country," end quote. And I was like, well, see, that's the first problem. You're a civilian police officer. See, cops forget. They like to call other people civilians. But you forget, you're civilian too, homeboy. Okay, the way it works is you're either civilian or you're military. And police aren't military. Well, they're on their way to being a paramilitary organization, but you guys aren't supposed to be military. You're supposed to be civilian as well. There's the first disconnect. You put yourself in with the jackboots. You put yourself in with the military. Well, they're just civilians. I'm a police officer. No, you're a dude in a costume. You're a grown-up who wears a costume for a job, and apparently you're letting your costume tell you and dictate things to you. You animate that costume. You actually have no real power as a person. If you go out without your costume, your badge, your gun, you're throwing your weight around as an officer, if you just go out like a normal human being and walk amongst the public and don't try to intimidate them with your control, what happens? Do people look at you and go, oh, yes, sir, yes, sir? Or do they just treat you like a normal human being? They usually treat you like a normal human being unless you're walking around, I'm a cop, which some do. And I'm not making fun of cops, but I'm just tired of this crap. You guys are supposed to be on our side. You're supposed to take care of the citizens. You're supposed to protect and serve the people. You're not supposed to protect and serve the scumbag corporations, although I know the Supreme Court already ruled that the cops don't have a duty to protect you. Well, then we don't have a duty to pay your salaries anymore. How about that? How about we don't pay salaries for police officers who don't work for us anymore? Oh, you're a crazy person. Oh, you must be advocating, sovereign citizenry. You kill cops. Oh, my God. No, I don't. None of that. None of that. I'll destroy all those stupid arguments right now before they even get launched. That's not what I'm talking about. I say we just stop paying the salaries of the scumbag cops. I don't. F the police unions. Well, they have a police. Who cares? Fire all the cops. Let the union take it to court. F them. When it goes to court, you can show if the cops that were fired, you have to fire the good cops. Or, excuse me, you have to fire the bad cops, keep the good cops. Which, unfortunately, there's more bad now than there was good. It used to be the other way around, but it's not anymore. Why? Because a lot of the good cops have retired. And since they've retired, they've been replaced with shitbags. That's just the way it works. Military operates the same way. Sometimes you lose really good soldiers, Marines, airmen, sailors, and they get replaced by shitbags who are willing to shoot civilians. Now, if you wear a uniform as a police officer, you're supposed to protect the people. You're not supposed to protect the scumbag bankers. You're not supposed to protect, power brokers, whoever, politicians. And first of all, why do politicians have to be that afraid of people? Oh, well, the citizens are crazy in this country. Why are they so pissed? Instead of going, well, the citizens are just assholes, I need a bodyguard. How about you go, I wonder why the citizenry's pissed at me. They don't understand. I'm doing things in their best interest. Let's remember this. A lot of the people that vote on bills like the internet being shut down and cybersecurity bills and all this other stuff, a lot of them don't even understand how the internet works. In fact, most of them don't understand how the internet works. They don't. And they don't have to be old fogies. Some of them are younger. And they still don't understand how the internet works. Most people don't understand how the internet works. Most people I know think that the internet, you can just plug into it. And it just goes on. It's not the way it works. Anyway, getting off on another subject because that's something I want to get into second hour. But these people that pass laws don't understand anything. That's where I was going with that. They look at things very differently than we do. They don't understand that maybe the citizens are pissed off. The police do. How do you not understand why there's pissed off citizens? How the hell do you not understand that? Well, they just don't like cops, you know. Most people I know do not like police officers. I know police officers that don't like other police officers and have since left the department. It's your policies. It's the way you handle things. How about that? It's not because people are scum and we're at a war with scum in this country. It's your policies. It's the way you handle your business. You know, if I walked around beating people up, tasing people, giving people tickets, and doing God knows whatever else, shooting people, murdering people, and then got covered by some union rep every time and my chief and everything, or whoever, somebody that was looking out for me, don't you think people would dislike me? Nobody wants to get bullied. Does anybody like the bully in high school? No. Some people might be afraid and suck up to them, but they really don't like the bully. They're just kissing the bully's ass. We all know there's a difference between liking someone and blowing smoke right up their ass, don't we? I think we do. So why this adversarial view? Let's look at the bigger picture. Why an adversarial view, Popeye? Why have the police and the citizenry fighting amongst each other? Well, if the police are one of our first lines of defense against outside forces and agencies coming in and taking away freedoms, right? If they're a first line of defense on the local level, that's non-military, well, then you must infiltrate that. And not only must you infiltrate that, if you want to take over the people and you want to pull things off like they do, you need to convince those officers that the very people that they live amongst, their neighbors, their friends, their family, that they're all bad. Now, how do you do that? Well, if I was going to play a game of chess, because remember, these guys are this whole thing is, a lot of this is based on the art of the long con. If you don't understand what I'm talking about, go look up the art of the long con. You see, when these people play chess, they don't play chess to win the game in an hour. They don't play chess to win the game in a day. They don't even do it to win the game in a week. They play it to win the game in spans of years. And I don't mean 4 or 5. I mean 10, 20, 30, 40, and 50 years. 60 years. 100 years. Because they work things so that their lineage, their bloodlines are still in power down the road. Whether they have a different name, a different look, it doesn't matter. These people are playing a large game of chess. So what would be the goal of getting the citizenry and the police to fight amongst each other? Division, weakness, easily taken over. The cops would willingly run out, or at least half of them, right, and round people up. You're a scumbag criminal. You must get rounded up and put in a FEMA camp. That's what the president, whatever, whoever happens to be in dictator-in-chief says. You must get rounded up. In order to pull things off like that, you need people willing to follow orders. Why do you think they don't like to hire police that are smart? I got a comment on one of my articles about this from a retired Air Force MP. And he said, you know, I'm beginning to think that there's something wrong with me, because every time I go to a police department and apply, all these local police agencies around me don't want me. And I told him, I commented back, it's not that there's anything wrong with you. You're probably too damn smart for them. And I was serious. I mean, it's because, as I've said before, police agencies around the country have admitted, I forget the exact one that went on the one news clip that I've played before, but just go look it up. You'll see, Google it or whatever, start page, and go look. You'll see that they're not hiring cops with an IQ above 100. Now, why would they do that? I guess because their policies and the things that they ask the officers to do were driving away the smarter candidates. See, they had a high turnover rate. So rather than look at their policies and go, well, we're losing a lot of good cops. Why are we losing these good people and these good officers? And they look and they say, oh, well, we're losing them because they don't like, I guess when they question them or whatever, they were able to, the information, they out of that, they interpolated that the police were quitting because they had too high of IQs. Instead of looking at it and going, well, our effed up policies are causing these cops to quit, because I'm sure the cops said reason for leaving, whatever, and, they have to go through I'm sure they hounded them and they found out the reasons that these officers quit, right? So these cops quit, and instead of changing the policies to retain more intelligent human beings, no, because that would make sense, right? That would make sense if you wanted to retain smart, good, quick-thinking individuals. No. Can't have that. So what we're going to do is we're going to lower the bar, and we're not going to hire anybody above that lowered bar. It's that bar and below, which is normally you'd want that bar and above, right? No. Nope. What we're going to do is we're going to hire from that bar and below. So that way we will have people that will just follow orders and just do what they're told. So does that make you feel cool to be a cop who was just hired, if you have an IQ of like 99 or 100? Does that make you feel good to know that the reason they hired you is because they think that you're so stupid that you won't question anything, you'll just do it? That's how they feel about you. They're saying that you are so dumb, you are so idiotic, that it does not matter what orders you're given. You will do them because you have an IQ of 100 or below. And, some people, they are idiotic and stupid, but there are people out there that don't need to have genius-level IQs or anything like that to figure out that what they're doing is wrong. Just search inside yourself. Seriously, search inside yourself and ask yourself, should I be doing this? Should we just be randomly kicking in doors without even knowing if we have the right address? I mean, there's SWAT captains that have been caught. One guy a couple weeks ago was caught lying to get a warrant. And yeah, he got in trouble, but they still raided the wrong house, and I think they ended up killing somebody in that raid. And well, he got in trouble, Popeye. But they didn't change their policies. What are they going to tell the next guy? Well, just make sure you verify it and get the right address. They can't seem to get the right address. I forget who said it the other day. Might have been Josh Tolley. He's a host, another radio show host out there. He's pretty good. He does a good show during the day. I think it was him that made the comment that it's pretty bad when Pizza Hut has a higher accuracy rate with addresses than the police department. So maybe we should make the cops the pizza delivery guys, and we should make the police department Pizza Hut the police department. Because if the pizza delivery guy can get the correct address on a higher ratio, or on if you looked at the ratio of screw ups to non screw ups, they have a better stat than the cops. So let's say Pizza Hut gets 80% accuracy rate, and the cops get 50 or even below. How is that acceptable? Well, they have a stressful job, Popeye. No, you're making excuses when you accept this. It's not acceptable. It's not. Remember I was talking about the swatting thing earlier? I was talking about the little girl that got hit by a grenade. Listen.
Police around the country are warning tonight about a bizarre new hoax.
Yes, a bizarre new hoax, Diane. A bizarre new hoax. But let's not change our policies because it's been going on for a while, Diane.
Pranksters send police SWAT teams brandishing guns to your home in the middle of the night. Neighbors have done it to get revenge. Public officials are targets. So was Justin Bieber. Here's ABC's Nick Watt.
A 911 call, a man waving a gun near Justin Bieber's LA home. Police helicopters and cruisers dispatched immediately. But that call was a hoax, the latest in a rash of so-called swatting, bogus 911 calls for crimes so potentially dangerous they trigger a SWAT team response.
I am armed, I do have a pistol, and I swear to God, I will kill these people.
Colorado Springs police reacted to that with heavy weapons drawn. They found a 15-year-old kid just hanging out at home.
I come out of my room, they got guns pointing at me. I'm like, oh my God, I'm gonna die.
People primarily SWAT because they want to watch it's the thrill of it. It's a power thing.
There are about 400 swatting incidents a year nationwide, costing on average $10,000 each. They waste valuable police resources and raise fears of accidental shootings. 2 people have even reportedly suffered heart attacks.
Shot my wife, so...
That was a swatter claiming to be Eric Erickson, an Atlanta radio host.
It's Eric Erickson here on News Talk.
The SWAT team was dispatched to his door. Erickson believes he was targeted because of his conservative politics.
If he keeps up, someone's going to get killed.
Authorities are trying to fight back, cracking down harshly on those caught. Teenager Matthew Weigman was recently sentenced to 11 years in jail.
I want $10,000 in a police cruiser up front. I'm going to kill the rest of the hostages in 30 minutes.
Police reacted to that call in New Jersey by firing tear gas into the house. There was no hostage situation, and luckily, only the cat was home. Nick Watt, ABC News.
Oh, luckily only the cat got poisoned. So we killed your cat, your lovely family cat. But hey, at least nobody was home. Right? Or how about this? How about the story about the little girl that I told you about?
Family in Billings, Montana was raided by a SWAT team. The most egregious error during that raid was a mistimed grenade detonation. The result of that, a 12-year-old girl suffering from 1st and 2nd degree burns. This after a flashbang grenade was dropped through a window next to her bed. As you can see here, the flashbang grenade left a large bowl-shaped dent in the wall, and according to the girl's mother, it blew the nails out of the drywall. Another mistake, the Billings Police Department sent the SWAT team to the wrong house. The disastrous raid resulted in no charges or arrests, despite the police having, quote, credible intel that the Fashing family home was also home to a crystal meth lab. Jackie Fashing, the mother of the burned 12-year-old, said that, quote, a simple knock on the door and I would have let them in. She said they said their intel told them there was a meth lab at our house. If they would have checked, they would have known. There's not. That same intel did not inform the SWAT team that there was a juvenile in the room.
I want to know one thing real quick. I have to interrupt the clip. What kind of jagoff throws an explosive device into a meth lab? That's why when I was a firefighter, we used to call cops guinea pigs because they used to run up to burning houses and try to be rescued. You know, oh, I'm a super cop. And they would kick the doors in, and then there'd be a backdraft, and the door would blow the cop across the street. Believe me, there have been police officers have been killed because they do things like that. Like, hello? Why do you not think? Don't kick doors in on a fire scene. That's what the fire department is for. And if you get a call of a meth lab that would have explosive stuff inside of it, chemicals, why would you throw an explosive incendiary device into such a place? Because you could cause an explosion which would kill your whole SWAT team. Stupid.
Unfortunately, these no-knock SWAT team raids are often a recipe for disaster, resulting in injury and sometimes even death of innocent people. The Cato Institute found 378 documented paramilitary raids have had some of those errors. And this is not as rare as you think. Since 1985, SWAT teams have raided innocent people 191 times. So why does this keep happening? Well, it may have something to do with those increased funding for a militarized police force. In the case of the Billings police, their senators were bragging as recently as August about securing more than $52,000 through a Justice Department grant for equipment to, quote, improve community safety.
That's right. Improving community safety here in America is done via flashbang grenade and at the barrel of a gun. Reminds me of Iraq. Is America starting to turn into a third world country with a militarized police state? Unacceptable, ladies and gentlemen. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to hour number 2 here on tonight's live edition of Down the Rabbit Hole. I'm your host, Popeye, from federaljack.com, and I'm just a little pissed off tonight, as you can tell. You know, I try to have a couple days off and go look for a spot for the new Federal Jack bunker, or whatever you want to call it, studio. I know I just said off echelon, whoop, whoop, when I said the word bunker. And I take a couple days off, and I unplugged. I wasn't near a computer. I admittedly only had my cell phone on me. I was not checking websites. I was not paying attention to the news. I had things I had to take care of. I got caught up in the rat race. I had to unplug. I had no choice. When I came back, I was, I think, naively hoping that I would not see just a cavalcade of excrement. I'll try to keep it family friendly. But apparently I was wrong. Every time I turn on the news as of late, I just keep seeing more and more instances where people in costumes with supposed positions of authority are either abusing it, or they're shooting somebody, tasing somebody, running them over, pepper spray, batoning them, beating someone to death. Apparently Ryan dropped in during the chat room, one of our own hosts here. Ryan Brooks, Sound of Freedom. Check him out during the week, Monday through Friday, 7 to 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Awesome show. Ryan dropped in that some guy was beat to death in a Seattle candy store or 7-Eleven or whatever the hell it was for holding a candy bar. So he got beat to death. Oh, because it could have been Popeye could have been a candy bar gun. He could have shot chocolate into the cop, and he would have gotten chocolate on his tie. So that is a punishable felony, and it's only punishable by death, apparently. Just absolutely disgusting. I want to move on to a few other things, but the point is, we need to stop this. We need to address this behavior as wrong. We need to admit that there's a problem, okay? Stop, I'll go call my police union representative. No, your police union rep's a scumbag, and he'd probably hose you over as soon as he could look at you. Hey, look, I was a Teamster a long, long time ago, and you know what? My own shop steward screwed me over, screwed over all the other guys I worked with. They don't care. Unions are corrupt. Get it through your head. Oh, we love you. We're unions. And I'm not union bashing. I used to be, again, I was a union member for a long time. You know what? They screw you over. The almighty dollar, to most people, everybody, not all people, but many people, I would say still a larger amount than not, can be bought. And unfortunately, in positions of power like that, people are bought and paid for. If you did something that I'm addressing the police officers out there, if you listen to this, if you did something that these guys could not back without looking bad or having anything negative come back on them, do you think they'd back you? No. If you did something that was so horribly wrong that they had no choice, they would send you up the river. They would. They don't care. Stop thinking that you have a war with the citizens. You don't. We are on your side. We are your mother, your brother, your sister, your uncle, your best friend. We are you. You're not them. They look at you like you're dogs. They could give two shits less about you or your kin. The people that you attack, the people that you're out there policing, they have more in common with you than your masters. And it's the same way to the people in the military. You're over in one of these foreign countries killing people. The people that you're fighting have more in common with you than the people you're doing the fighting for. We need to stop this. And it would be over just as fast as that tomorrow if everybody that was part of this control mechanism, the jackboot thugs, the jackboot government agents, the cops, the military, anybody that took part in doing wrong things, if you just turned around and said, no, I won't do it anymore. I won't take part in it. I will not do that. I will not sacrifice my humanity for you scumbags. We are all on the same team. Just remember that. I know I ragged on cops the first hour. I guess it seems like I'm just pissed off because, I mean, I expect a little more out of people running around with guns and so highly trained. Remember, everybody's a highly trained police officer. They train everybody to react. They don't train. What happened to conflict resolution? You're supposed to de-escalate the situation, not come in, pull your gun out, and escalate it. That's an escalation. Didn't they teach you the difference, the basics there? You're being a jerk-off again, Baba. You're coming across mean and nasty again, and I don't like the attitude. Well, I'm a little tooted up, okay? I'm a little pissed off. I'm tired of seeing 12-year-old girls get hit with a flashbang grenade. Well, we dropped it in the wrong window. You know, shit happens sometimes. Well, what happens if that was your kid? Well, my kids wouldn't be in a situation like that because my kids don't do anything bad. Really? Right. That's why most of the kids that I knew whose parents were cops growing up, they were the biggest dirtbag drug users. Some of them were dealers. But no, cops' kids don't ever do anything wrong. So your kid might not be in a situation, right, where he might get flashbanged or nightsticked or shot. Except when it does happen. And then the father, who there was one case, I'd have to look it up. It was on YouTube a couple years ago. I remember the video. And it was the kid got killed, and I don't remember, the cop killed him for whatever reason. Turned out he was unarmed. But the kid's father was a cop who was actively working, and he went out and he told the other police department, and he said it publicly that he shouldn't have shot his kid, that he had no right doing that. I mean, if it was your mother, your brother, your sister, whoever, getting shot, tased, beat, hit, run over, would you like it? No. We are you. It's time you started realizing that and acting like it. We are you. You are us. You're not with them. And the reason why they call you their dogs is because of the things that you're willing to do to your own kind without a second's thought. Doesn't it piss you off to know that they have no respect for you? The citizens would have more respect for you. The people, the humans around you would have more respect for you if you stood up and did the right thing. If there were bad cops out there that are corrupt or doing whatever, instead of hiding it in that thin blue line bullshit, string them up. Hold them accountable. I don't mean literally string them up. You know what I mean. Hold them accountable. Punish them. However you do it. Fire them. Take away their position of authority. Take away their badge. Whatever you guys do. If you started doing that, you would gain so much more respect than you'll ever get at the barrel of a gun or from a bottle of mace or a baton or a taser. I can promise you that. If you started holding your own accountable and actually owning up to the fact that you did something wrong or that one of your officers did something wrong. When I see police shooters, well, he shot a 16-year-old kid in the face, but it was justified because the officer didn't know if the kid had a gun or if it was just his Walkman or his MP3 player or his cell phone. So he riddled him with 91 bullets to the face just to make sure. But I stand by my officer's actions. No. How about you say my officer was wrong? He's put on suspension until further notice. Unpaid suspension, not paid vacation, unpaid suspension until further notice. Because when they do that with police officers, you know what happens? Usually they quit. The bad ones. When they put them on unpaid suspensions indefinitely for a couple months until they do an investigation, some of them try to stick it out and just to prove a point, but I've seen cops get fired. Or they're in the process of being investigated, leading to them being fired, and they quit. They'll resign. They work something out with their union rep where they resign, and they don't. And then a lot of times people go, well, they're not cops anymore in that town or that city, but they'll go somewhere else. I've seen cops get fired from one city and go work in another. We need to hold them accountable. I'm sorry, if you're in a position of authority, and I'm doing air quotes like that, if you're doing authority, if you're a police officer, and you're running around abusing your position of power, then you're done. End of story. I don't want to hear union rep, none of this crap. If you want to gain the respect of the citizens straight up, then guess what? You need to start doing the right thing. It's as simple as that. Well, it's much easier said than done. No, that's an excuse. That's an excuse. You know what I tell people when they give me excuses? I don't want to hear it. Go out and do something good. You signed up, right, with the intention of doing good, or did you sign up because you wanted to be a power-tripping a-hole? We need more good officers out there. The old school, type of sheriffs that would go out, they wouldn't just randomly pull people over, to make I noticed your light is not as bright, your one tail light is not as bright as the other tail light. The bulb is burning out, so I'm going to have to give you a ticket for not replacing that, or your bulb's out, or whatever. You don't have a seatbelt on. First of all, let me ask you a question about seatbelt tickets. How does a seatbelt ticket save anybody's lives? Well, because under fear of getting a ticket, people wear the seatbelt and ends up saving their lives in an accident. So you're admitting to using fear as a way to control people. But it's for their own good, Popeye. I don't care what people try to argue with me and they say that crap to me. No, you shouldn't have to use fear to control people. When Ryan was on with me a couple weeks ago and we talked about this, we were talking to the guys in the military and we said if they need fear to keep you in, because Ryan pointed out that a lot of soldiers re-enlist because they're brainwashed with fear. Oh my God, there's no money out there in the private sector. You're going to be screwed and homeless and blah. And they sign up. If they need fear to keep you doing what you're doing, or if you need to motivate somebody only with fear. Now, I'm not talking about if you're about to get eaten by a shark or a lion, so that's primal fear. That's what fight or flight is, and if it kicks in properly, you will grow wings on your feet. And I've seen people pull amazing feats like walk on water in situations like that, trying to get away from things. But that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about me wanting to get something from you or to achieve an end, right? I want to get to point. There's something at point B that I want, right? Or I want from point B, we'll say, and you're in my way. But if I get you to help me, you can help me get there really fast and get whatever it is I want there, right? So we're at point A. But I don't want you to know what I'm doing, because then you might try to object. Because maybe you don't like what I want to do when I get to point B. So what am I going to do? I'm going to scare the living shit out of you so you'll carry me on your back from point A to point B. How about that? Now, if I did that, don't you think you people would say to me, wow, you're a scumbag, Popeye? Why are you trying to scare us? Well, that's what the government does every day. And I'm not talking just about the federal government. Remember, scumbaggery, when it's not challenged on high, like you see the president doing things and no one challenges it, then scumbaggery rolls downhill into your local levels. Just like that video where the guy's walking there with the gun on his hip and the cop says to him, he says, why don't you follow the Constitution? And the cop says to him, I'll follow it when the president does. Well, you see, when the lower level sees the corruption up on the upper level and they don't see them getting in trouble, they go, well, I'll do it too. This needs to stop. All right, straight up, it needs to stop. And I can continue to go on, but I got other things I want to get into. The point is, it needs to stop. Police officers, cops, whatever, sheriffs, you are us, we are you. You're not with them. You are not looked at by your masters like you think you are. They look at you lower than they think we are whale shit, and they think you're lower than whale shit because of what you're willing to do to your own kind. I suggest you take a little more pride in yourself as a human being and say, I will not partake in this crap. I will not allow it. I will not do it. It's that simple. You make the choice. You say, I don't want to do this anymore. End of story. Done. I've ranted enough on that subject. Moving on. There's a few other things that I'd like to get into. As I have talked about numerous times with Winston Smith, and I've played the audio. I cut the audio up for you guys from the last couple times he was on, and I played it. And you heard him say they were going to do cyber attacks and blame it on Iran and China and Anonymous. Well, you've seen the Anonymous stuff happen. And then now you've seen the China stuff happen, 2 weeks ago? And now Iran. Oh, my God. oh my God, Iran is going to hack the banks. That's right. Now all of a sudden we're under a sustained hack attack, or we had a hack. It was either yesterday or today. Because remember, I was unplugged for the past couple of days, so it could have been yesterday. But within the past, we'll say 24 hours, apparently there's been another hack attack on U.S. banks. And it's traced back to, dun, 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 hackers in Iran. Popeye, you make fun of this all the time. You think it's a joke. No, I don't think it's a joke. I think it's a false flag, and I think it's being thrown right in your face. This is like a 30-second clip from CNN as a prime example.
Iranian hackers have launched a cyber war on U.S. targets. That's according to the...
Oh, my God, the first shots in a cyber war have begun. And remember what the Pentagon said, we will react with bullets and bombs, even to a cyber attack.
The Wall Street Journal, which cites top U.S. officials. They say there's been a string of hacking attacks on American banks and on oil and energy companies in the Persian Gulf and Middle East. Defense Secretary Leon Panetta is sounding the alarm.
These kinds of attacks could be a cyber Pearl Harbor.
Did you hear what he just said? A cyber, quote-unquote, Pearl Harbor. What did they call 9/11? Remember the PNAC document? Short of a new Pearl Harbor, short of a catalyzing event, such as a new Pearl Harbor, and then comes 9/11. And what did Bush supposedly say in his little diary that night? I think I have witnessed something to the effect of, I think I've witnessed or lived through or whatever, my country's Pearl Harbor, or my generation's Pearl Harbor, something to that effect. And remember, the video I made, I put a movie explaining all this. I put it together. It's up on the net. It's up on Federal Jack Tube 4. It's on the front. Just go right to the front of OrionTalkRadio.com. It's right on the front of the website. Go watch the movie. Richard Clark told in 2008, Lawrence Lessing he's a professor of law from Stanford University. He warned about the Internet Patriot Act. He had talked to Richard Clark about it, and he said they were waiting for a cyber 9/11 to hit. Uh-oh. Flash forward to what Winston and I have talked about multiple times. Cyber 9/11, right? Oh, we got to take away the free and the open internet because Iranian hackers are hacking into stuff they certainly could never hack into. Can you say false flag?
An attack that would cause physical destruction and the loss of life. An attack that would paralyze and shock the nation.
Ugh. I just have no words for Panetta. Oh, yeah, I do. Scumbag, traitor. That's just a few things. How do people not see this? I mean, I know the listeners see it. I know you guys understand what's going on. I know you don't buy into the propaganda. Most of the listeners, anyway. There are some that are still on the edge, and they say, "Oh, well, Popeye, Iran hates us." Look, dude. First of all, maybe if we weren't pushing sanctions on their country, remember I've talked about sanctions before. I've talked about them, about what it did to Iraq. I've said it. Dahlia Wasfi's talked about it. I've played you the clips, the audio. Sanctions do more harm than any good. The only thing they do is hurt the people. So what does that serve us? How does that serve us and do anything good for us? It doesn't. Well, we can make the people throw him out. No. They're not going to want to throw him out. They're going to want to gang up on us. Idiots. But they don't hate. They hate us for our freedom. They don't hate us for our policies. Stop that nonsense, Popeye. Come on. Look, here's more from CNN.
Cyber attack against U.S. banks is an escalation of what officials say is a war in a battle space you can't even see.
It's like the Loch Ness Monster. We've all heard about it. Now we're seeing it on the surface.
The attacks that took banking websites offline, essentially denying some customers the ability to perform some transactions, wasn't that big of a deal, say experts. It's who U.S. officials believe was behind it that has them taking notice.
The scale and speed with which it happened was unprecedented.
U.S. officials tell CNN Iran was behind the banking attack, and while still lagging behind China and Russia in its cyber capabilities, a U.S. intelligence source says we're concerned about their increasing ability to operate in this realm. In part, say experts, because Iran isn't seen as a stable player.
I had a talk with some Chinese officials once, and they said to me, one of the things you don't have to worry about is we will never disrupt Wall Street. And I said, well, why is that? And they said, because we own it.
But an attack targeting oil and gas companies in the Middle East just a few months ago wiped clean the data on some 30,000 computers. U.S. sources are pointing the finger at Iran on that attack, too. An Iranian official denied that Tehran had anything to do with those attacks and reminded reporters that Iran has also been a victim in the past.
Most famous software that were used against Iran were the Stuxnet.
Stuxnet is a computer virus that rendered thousands of Iranian nuclear enrichment centrifuges useless. It's widely believed that the U.S. and Israel were behind it. The U.S. is now taking another look at its own arsenal in cyberspace and redefining when a military response might be justified because of a cyber attack.
A crippling cyber attack were launched against our nation. The American people must be protected.
There's your answer from Leon Panetta. Real bombs and real bullets in response to a quote-unquote cyber attack from a hostile nation. Internet 911 coming up. For control of the internet. That's all this is about. I don't know if anyone's seen the breaking news. Apparently Hillary Clinton is taking blame for the attack in Benghazi. It rests squarely on my shoulders. Now, there's a few different reasons for this, but I was chatting with Joe Joseph and Tim Watts off air earlier this evening before I came on. And I had seen this, and it was, none of us had heard about it yet. And I said, I just wonder if she's going to use this as an excuse to back out of the job as the Secretary of State. If Obama gets reelected, she's not going to stay in anyway, and this would allow her to back out, take the heat off of him, right? Back out. And remember, in 2011, she expressed interest in running the World Bank. If you don't think I'm correct, or if you think I'm crazy, go into whatever search engine you have and type in Hillary Clinton wants to run World Bank, and look at all the links that pop up. You'll see Reuters, you'll see New York Daily News, The Telegraph, Zero Hedge, and more. There's a ton of links. And the reason why I mentioned the mainstream ones is because if someone says, well, it could be some conspiracy crap that somebody made up. Nope. Here, I'll read to you right from the Reuters website. June 9th, 2011. Exclusive. Clinton in talks about possible move to World Bank. Secretary of State Hillary Clinton has been in discussions with the White House about leaving her job next year. That would be 2012, because this was written in 2011, to become head of the World Bank. Sources familiar with the discussions said on Thursday. I guess they're having talks behind closed doors about this. Interesting. Secret society type garbage, maybe? The former First Lady and one-time political rival to President Barack Obama quickly became one of the most influential members of his cabinet after she began her tenure at State in early 2009. She has said publicly she did not plan to stay on at the State Department for more than 4 years. Associates say Clinton has expressed interest in having the World Bank job should the bank's current president, Robert Zoellick, leave at the end of his term in the middle of 2012. Hillary Clinton wants the job, said one source who knows the secretary well. A second source also said that Clinton wants the position. Now, that's just one of the links, and the article goes on that just continue to confirm it. That's from Reuters. Just go look it up on your favorite search engine of choice. Hillary Clinton wants to run World Bank. And a whole crap load of links will come up. Now, with that in mind, I'm going to play you this clip where, fast forward a year later, she takes blame conveniently for this. Now, I'm not saying she's going to, but if all I'll say is it would be interesting timing to see her back out as Secretary of State and go work for the World Bank. Because remember, just like the article said, she would leave her position as Secretary of State next year. That's this year. That's now.
Breaking news about the deadly attack on the U.S. consulate in Benghazi, Libya. Just a short time ago, Secretary of State Hillary Clinton told CNN's Elise Labott the buck stops with her and she takes responsibility for the assault that killed U.S. Ambassador Chris Stevens and 3 other Americans. Elise joins me now. Elise, you just interviewed Secretary Clinton. What exactly did she tell you?
Well, Aisha, there's been so much political back and forth in Washington over who was responsible for the attack that killed Ambassador Chris Stevens and 3 other Americans. And even last week in the vice presidential debate, when asked about those additional requests for security that were denied, the vice president kind of threw the State Department under the bus, said, we didn't know anything about that. And Secretary Clinton, when I asked her about that, she said, listen, this is a State Department function. The State Department finds the embassy security for embassies and consulates around the world, and that's my State Department. I have 60,000 employees, and I take responsibility, Aisha. I think she was trying to take a little bit of the heat off the White House at this time when an election is coming up, but also try and remind people that, hey, 4 Americans died, including an ambassador, and we need to stop this blame game. She said she doesn't want any more political gotcha, Aisha.
Yeah, that may be her wish, but it's unclear as to whether that will be the outcome of these statements. I do want to ask you, though, whether she was able to clarify statements that came out of the administration and as to why they were made in the first place about this spontaneous protest that they claim was as a result of the anti-Muslim film that initially was said led to this attack. What did she say about that?
Well, she didn't really want to get into that. Again, not saying she didn't want to play any blame games. She says, she kind of chalked it up to the confusion of that night, saying a lot of information was coming in. Everybody was trying to share information, and this was the best information that they had at the time. But she said that there was no malevolence going on. It was really just confusion of the night. She really didn't want to say anything about the protest per se.
And given these statements that she has put out this evening, because she hasn't, these are among the first interviews she's given on this matter. What is your sense? Will this be enough to calm the political back and forth?
I'm not really sure, Aisha. I mean, again, the president's running for re-election in a few weeks, and this narrative that Al-Qaeda is on the run, that the Obama administration has gone after Al-Qaeda, there's a little dent in that now with everything going on in Libya, with the attack tied to groups sympathetic to Al-Qaeda. And I think that even though the State Department, Secretary Clinton taking responsibility, there were a lot of breakdowns, obviously, that night, not just with security, but, intelligence assessments about the threat there. And ultimately, this is an administration of many agencies that is run by one man, President Obama, and he's up for re-election. So I think it might take a little bit of the heat off for the next couple of days. You have the presidential debate coming on right now, but I think ultimately, as a lot of Democrats said, this is a witch hunt. That's what they call it.
Oh, God, a witch hunt. I can't listen to any more of this. Obviously, to me, this is what this looks like. It looks like that they always benefit on multiple levels. One, they need a scapegoat, and they probably went to Hillary and said, look, falls under state. Can we throw you under the bus? You were planning on leaving anyway, right? If I get reelected, you're not going to stay. And if I don't get reelected, you're probably not going to stay. So either way, what do you care? You're leaving. So how about you do me a favor? You stand up there, and of course it'll make Hillary Clinton look good to some people because she's got the courage and charisma to stand up and take the blame, right? So that gets the heat off the Obama administration. They say, hey, it was State Department's F up, not ours. And I've asked Secretary Clinton, now this hasn't happened yet, but I'm willing to bet, and I'm not a betting man unless I know I'm going to win the bet. I don't make random bets just because I like to gamble, okay? I only like to bet on things I know I'm going to win. So I'm willing to bet that she's going to step down. Today's Monday. I'm not saying that she is, but I would be willing to put money on it that she's going to step down probably within the next 2 weeks, maybe even month as Secretary of State. Sometime before the election. It wouldn't surprise me if she stepped down between now and the election as Secretary of State, and then within a few weeks or months, suddenly she goes for that World Bank the World Bank president position, that job that you heard me say she wants. This is just, as soon as I saw this breaking, Hillary Clinton takes blame for Benghazi attack, because it's being used as a political football right now. Which, by the way, the ambassador's family should really be pissed off, because the news media and these politicians are using this as a political football. That guy was sacrificed. He was set up. We've explained who it was, what happened. I've gone over this. The guy was set up. It reeks. The whole situation reeks. Why the Obama administration said what they said, they were probably trying to do damage control. And maybe they're not that, their people aren't that smart. There is, the human factor in all of this. And I'm not saying they were caught off guard and poor Obama. No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying that if the information that I've come across and brought to you, ladies and gentlemen, is accurate, and I believe it is, because as time progresses, more and more things are pointing in that direction, he's going to take, this is going to be used to, I guess you could say, take the fire out of the wind out from underneath the sails. Not that the employment and everything else, but this is just one more big in-your-face, an ambassador got killed on the Obama administration. So if Hillary Clinton takes the blame for it, that takes the fire off of him. Now it was my Secretary of State. And then as president, all he has to do is ask her to step down. And she goes, okay, I'll step down. And then she leaves, and they say, how gracious Hillary Clinton is, blah, 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 blah. And then suddenly she's the World Bank president. So it might not happen that way. I find it really interesting how they were in talks last year of her stepping down this year to go work at the World Bank. And now this happens, and she's taking, blame for it. I'm the Secretary of State. It happened under my watch, blah, 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 blah. The Obama administration is saying that they had no idea, Biden, we had no clue about the security thing, and the fact that they were asking for more security, and the State Department hadn't granted them more security and let them do this or that. So they threw the State Department under the bus. She's the head of the State Department. When you understand the game being played, it's like you can see the chess moves. It's really crazy. When you put on the glasses from They Live and you look around and you see how things really are, it is nuts. When you see things the way Neo does in The Matrix with everything being code. To those of you that are awake and listening, you understand what I mean. It's like watching the news after you're awake, and you can't even watch the news because you can just see through the propaganda when you watch television. Even if you're trying to just unplug, it's still in your face, That's how I am when I see this. That's what I see. I could be wrong. I'm not going to come out here, by the way, and say, I think I'm 100% accurate, and that's exactly what's happening, and I project. I'm just saying, I would not be surprised, and I would put my money on it. I'm that sure of it. I could be wrong. And if I'm wrong, I'll admit that I'm wrong. But I think that he's going to ask her to step down, and then you might see her take a position at the World Bank. Just saying. Just saying. I could be wrong, but I don't know. Something stinks about this whole thing. Backroom deals, conversations. She's going to leave anyway, so they can just tack this onto it. And for those of you that would say, well, maybe they planned this whole thing a year ago. I don't know about that, but she would be a convenient scapegoat. Put yourself in Obama's shoes. If you want to understand how I come to this conclusion, put yourself in Obama's shoes, right? With what you know about everything. Put yourself in his shoes. Knowing that Clinton would leave. Knowing that she was, you were already in talks with her a year ago to leave so she can go work for the World Bank. or whatever other aspirations she might have acquired over the past year towards whatever she wants to do now. And maybe she wants to go do whatever. Who knows? Maybe she won't work for the World Bank. Maybe she'll go work for some other sinister scumbag organization. But I foresee if I'd be, well, I don't want to say I foresee, because then that's getting into the whole soothsaying, predicting garbage. No, let's just say I would not be surprised, and I'd be willing to bet money that she'll step down before the election. And that if he was, if I was going to put myself in his shoes and I was presented with this situation where maybe another group inside this organized crime family was trying to take over the positions of power, right? And they blindsided me with this Benghazi attack, right? And there's other multiple reasons for it, but that would be a big thing, right? So I get blindsided by this. And I don't know how to react. We're trying to react as best as our advisors think, and it's still not working. How would I react to the situation? Well, if I had someone like Clinton, who conveniently is in charge of the State Department, and this mess falls under their jurisdiction, right? Well, she was in talks already to go leave for the World Bank, so I would say, look, Hill, baby, come here, let's have some coffee, sit. Okay? I know that you're going to leave soon to go work for the World Bank or whoever. This falls under state. How about, is it okay if, you take the blame, blah, 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 and we'll make sure you get hooked up with whatever? Okay. I mean, it's that simple. It happens every day on a smaller level. So why would we think that it wouldn't happen on a much larger level? And again, I'm not going to come out and say I have inside sources and I'm predicting. I'm not doing any of that. I'm just saying if I were going to bet money, I would put money on the fact that Hillary Clinton, or not the fact, I would put money on Hillary Clinton stepping down as Secretary of State between October 15th and November 6th. So you got less than a month. So before the November election, I would, if I were going to put money on it, I would say she'll back down as Secretary of State to give him a more presidential, I handled the situation, this crisis, right before the election. Maybe that's his October surprise. Maybe Romney's camp, as Susan Lindauer talked about with, she didn't say Romney, but she talked about how it was a rogue group inside the CIA working with the Mossad. And then Webster Tarpley confirmed it was a rogue group inside the CIA working with the Mossad, and then Steve Pachenik said the same thing. So 3 different sources saying the same thing, right? Again, the different factions of organized crime fighting for the position of power. Maybe that was Mitt Romney's quote-unquote early October surprise, right? We got Barack, ha-ha, the death blow. Maybe Obama's October surprise would be to have Hillary Clinton step down. What happens if that whole stalling tactic what happens if that whole thing with telling different reasons was a stalling tactic until they could figure out what to do, and they came up with this? Here's their out-of-the-pocket October surprise. Barack acts all presidential, has her stand down as Secretary of State, and bam, I'm the president, and I took care of things right before the election. So if I was going to try to win the hearts and minds and everything else, and I was going to play politics like that, I would do it. I mean, if I was in his position, let me rephrase that. If I was him, if I was in his shoes, being who he is, me, myself, personally, the way I am, I wouldn't even handle things like that. But that's besides the point. We wouldn't be in this mess to begin with. But that's neither here nor there. So if you put yourself in these people's shoes, you can look at things from a different perspective, and then you start to say, wow, well, maybe they would do this or this. Because when we look at things like, well, I wouldn't do this, or I wouldn't do that, or I would do this, or I would do that, we are nothing like these people. They are sociopaths. They are psychopaths. Actually, psychopaths is the more accurate term for what these people are. They are psychopaths. They have no emotion. They don't care about killing innocent people. They have no compunction about it whatsoever. They do not care. So stop thinking in terms of what you would do. Because what you would do would, even if you're, if you're low income or whatever, most of us all have the real people, blue collar people, have the regular people. Doesn't matter if you make $100,000 a year or $20,000 a year. Most of us have the ability for compassion. Now it's being programmed out of us with TV and movies and video games. That's why video games are so violent. And I've talked about Saw and everything else, the movie Saw and Hostel and all that stuff. That's to desensitize you and break you of your humanity without even realizing it. Because you've seen it so much on TV, it doesn't bother you if you see someone getting screwed up like that in real life. Because, hey, it's not that bad. I already saw it on TV. Come on, it looks just like a movie. Your humanity is being stolen from you. You're being programmed to accept wanton slaughter. It's really, really, really diabolical. And I'm going to tell you what, if you want to read someone who talked about this stuff a long time ago, if you want to read a book by them, go read Behold the Pale Horse by Bill Cooper. I know a lot of people don't like Bill Cooper. Well, Popeye, he talked about aliens. He talked about this. He talked about that. First of all, if you don't believe aliens exist and that we're the only living life form in the entire galaxy and universe, or not even just galaxy, but universe itself, you're ignorant and you're arrogant and you need to check yourself and check your ego, because humans are definitely not at the top of the food chain. Maybe on the planet, but not in the universe. We need to check ourselves. Okay, that's one. Two, Cooper talked a lot about the fact that he thinks the information given to him about the aliens running things and all this other stuff was disinformation to cover up what the government was actually doing, which sounds about right. And when you look at it that way, and you start to think about the alien abduction stories, as I've said, perhaps that the people with alien abduction stories weren't getting abducted by aliens, but rather getting abducted by humans and being tested with RFID chips and things of the like, because they weren't out yet. So they were probably testing them to see how accurate they were and how well they worked, and implanting a false memory. Now, I know that sounds like an elaborate conspiracy, but go look it up. They have the ability to implant false memories. So Cooper was right about a lot of stuff. Go read Behold the Pale Horse. Get the book while you can. And I don't think Bill Cooper was a god or anything like that. I don't idolize people, but he was he was pretty accurate. Cooper sometimes was a jerk, I know. I don't think he was perfect, but he wasn't a fearmonger either. He brought you factual information. Ladies and gentlemen, we're out of time. I've been ranting all night. It feels good to be back after my day off yesterday. Remember, tune in Wednesday. Part 2 of my conversation with Stephanie Sledge about the investigation into Jared Lee Loughner. And don't forget, mornings 8 to 10 here with Rudy Z.